The encounter began at 6 in the morning when Ronaldo was leaving his early training session and stopped at a small cafe near the Real Madrid facility for coffee, where he noticed the same man who had been cleaning the training center late the previous evening, now working behind the counter, preparing breakfast orders with the kind of efficient movement that suggested someone who had learned to maximize productivity during limited time windows. And when their eyes met across the counter, the mutual recognition led to a conversation that revealed the exhausting reality of working-class life, where single parents often needed multiple jobs to provide basic necessities for their children, while maintaining the professional reliability that each employer demanded, without understanding or accommodating the complex scheduling challenges that came with juggling responsibilities that left little time for rest, family interaction, or personal needs that were sacrificed to economic survival. The man working behind the counter was named Roberto, a 38-year-old single father who had been raising his two daughters alone since his wife's death from cancer 3 years earlier, and whose financial responsibilities had forced him to accept any employment opportunities that fit around his daughters' school schedules while providing enough combined income to cover rent, utilities, food, and the countless expenses that accompanied raising children without the dual income or shared responsibilities that characterized most families, leaving him in a constant state of exhaustion that was visible in his careful movements and tired eyes despite his professional demeanor and obvious dedication to performing each job with competence that had earned him steady employment even when his complex schedule made him a challenging employee for managers who preferred workers without outside obligations. Roberto's daily routine was a carefully orchestrated survival strategy that began at 4 in the morning when he prepared for his first job cleaning office buildings and training facilities, continued through morning shifts at the cafe where he served coffee and breakfast to customers who were beginning their days while he was already 4 hours into his working schedule, and concluded with evening hours at a grocery store where he stocked shelves and handled inventory until closing time, leaving him barely enough time to help his daughters with homework, prepare their meals for the following day, and ensure they were settled for sleep before beginning the cycle again with an alarm clock that rang after only a few hours of rest that was never adequate, but was all that his schedule allowed. The conversation that developed while Roberto prepared Ronaldo's coffee order revealed both his pride in his work ethic and his worry about the long-term sustainability of a lifestyle that was taking a visible toll on his health and his relationship with his daughters, who were old enough to understand that their father's constant absence was necessary for their survival, but young enough to need more attention and support than his schedule permitted. And his careful questions about Ronaldo's early morning training revealed someone who was genuinely interested in other people's work and challenges, despite being overwhelmed by his own circumstances that left little time for social interaction or personal interests beyond the immediate demands of employment and parenting responsibilities. The details that Roberto shared about his daughters painted a picture of children who were adapting to their father's demanding schedule with remarkable maturity and resilience, taking care of themselves before and after school while he worked, helping with household chores that most children their ages wouldn't be expected to manage, and maintaining academic performance despite having less parental supervision and assistance than most of their classmates, whose parents had more conventional work arrangements that allowed greater involvement in their children's educational and social development. And his obvious pride in their independence and achievement was mixed with guilt about the childhood experiences they were missing because his work schedule prevented him from attending school events, helping with homework, or simply spending relaxed time together that most families took for granted. The realization that prompted Ronaldo's intervention came when Roberto mentioned that his older daughter Sofia had been selected for her school's honor society, but that he probably wouldn't be able to attend the induction ceremony because it was scheduled during his evening shift at the grocery store. And the resigned acceptance in his voice as he described missing yet another milestone in his daughter's life revealed the painful compromises that working parents made when survival required sacrificing the family time and involvement that were essential for children's emotional development and parents' sense of fulfillment in their most important role. And his matter-of-fact explanation that Sophia understood why he couldn't be there demonstrated how children learn to adapt to economic pressures that forced families to prioritize immediate necessities over experiences that were important but not essential for physical survival. Ronaldo's decision to help Roberto was motivated not by pity, but by recognition of the dignity and determination that characterized someone who was working 3 jobs while raising 2 children alone, and his understanding that Roberto's situation represented systematic problems rather than individual failures. With economic structures that made full-time employment insufficient for supporting families, while creating working conditions that prevented parents from fulfilling their responsibilities to children who needed attention and involvement that couldn't be purchased or delegated to others. And his approach to providing assistance was designed to preserve Roberto's sense of independence and self-respect while addressing practical problems that were preventing him from achieving the work-life balance that every parent deserved, regardless of their economic circumstances or employment situations. The arrangement that emerged from their conversation involved Ronaldo quietly providing financial support that would allow Roberto to reduce his working hours while maintaining adequate income for his family's needs. But more importantly, the assistance was structured as payment for consulting services about facility maintenance and customer service that recognized Roberto's expertise and experience, rather than treating him as a charity recipient whose problems required external salvation. And this approach reflected Ronaldo's understanding that effective help preserved recipients' dignity while addressing real needs in ways that strengthened rather than undermined their sense of capability and self-worth. The immediate impact of this intervention was visible in Roberto's ability to attend Sophia's Honor Society induction ceremony, where his presence meant everything to a daughter who had learned not to expect her father's attendance at school events, but whose face lit up with surprise and joy when she saw him in the audience. And the family time that became possible when Roberto's schedule was reduced to manageable levels allowed him to rediscover the satisfaction of being present for his children's daily experiences, rather than just providing for their material needs through employment that consumed all his time and energy, while preventing him from enjoying the relationships that made work meaningful. The educational support that was included in Ronaldo's assistance program provided tutoring and enrichment opportunities for Roberto's daughters that supplemented their father's involvement while ensuring they had access to educational resources that could help them achieve their academic potential, despite their family's economic challenges. And this comprehensive approach recognized that children's success required both parental involvement and community support, that addressed the practical barriers that prevented working families from accessing educational opportunities that were available to families with greater resources and more flexible schedules that allowed parents to research and pursue such opportunities. The ripple effects of Roberto's situation extended beyond his immediate family to include other single parents and working families who faced similar challenges, balancing employment demands with parenting responsibilities. And the foundation program that developed from understanding his circumstances provided flexible employment opportunities, childcare assistance, and family support services that recognized the complex needs of parents who were trying to provide both economic security and emotional support for their children, despite working conditions that seemed designed to prevent such balance from being achieved. The community impact of addressing Roberto's situation included increased awareness among employers about the challenges faced by single parents and the benefits of flexible scheduling that allowed workers to maintain employment while fulfilling family responsibilities. And several businesses began implementing policies that accommodated parents' needs for schedule flexibility, emergency leave for family situations, and benefits that supported workers with children. demonstrating how individual advocacy could create broader changes in employment practices that benefited entire communities of working families. The policy advocacy work that emerged from Roberto's case focused on supporting legislation that would require employers to provide reasonable accommodations for parents, establish minimum wage levels that allowed single-income families to achieve basic security, and create support systems for single parents who were trying to balance work and family responsibilities without adequate resources or community assistance. And this advocacy demonstrated how individual stories could be used to illustrate broader policy issues that affected millions of families who faced similar challenges without the benefit of celebrity intervention or public attention that could generate pressure for systematic changes. Years later, when Roberto had established a more sustainable work-life balance that allowed him to be present for his daughter's important moments while maintaining financial stability, when Sofia had graduated from university with honors and attributed her success partly to having a father who was able to be involved in her education, when the Foundation's family support programs had helped hundreds of single parents achieve better balance between work and family responsibilities, Ronaldo would reflect that meeting Roberto at the cafe had reminded him that behind every hardworking person struggling to make ends meet was a family whose well-being depended on their success. That economic systems often forced parents to choose between providing for their children and being present for them. And that true assistance required not just financial support, but recognition of working parents' dignity and expertise, while addressing the systematic barriers that prevented them from achieving the balance between work and family that was essential for both economic survival and emotional fulfillment in their most important relationships.